Okay, good morning, everybody. It looks like we're live. Um, Looks like we're having a technical difficulty here. Also, I'm seeing a little notification here. But my name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. This is where you can ask your questions, your lawn and garden questions, water, trees, bushes, turf grass, vegetables, and we'll do our very best to answer them. So, good morning, Bernie. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing very good, Bill. Thank you.
Okay. Bernie, talk for a minute. Let me try to figure out this technical difficulty here.
All right. Well, earlier this morning we were out looking at beautyberry, Calocarpa americana, and beautyberry is one of those plants that is probably underutilized, and it grows so well, so easy, and it uh, can produce a very large plant or a very small plant, just depending on how you want to keep it. They really like dappled sunlight. Uh, if they're in full sun, they tend to get a bit leggy. If they're in real heavy shade, they tend to get a bit leggy. But they're not very particular about the soil, and they do produce a really beautiful bush, a lot of berries. The most common type has purple berry, and uh, the supposedly the birds eat them. I have never seen that happen. You can also make a jelly out of the berries, and as I understand it, takes a lot of sugar, like a pound of berries and a whole pound or 2 pounds of sugar to get the things going well. But uh, from a standpoint of how it looks, it's a gorgeous plant. I've got a couple of them that are intentionally planted, and I've got out in the woodsy area another probably 35 or 40 plants, and they just do so well. You don't have any maintenance to speak of. They don't care if you water them. I've heard you can walk by and kind of spit on them and kick them a little bit, and they're just as happy as if you were giving them love and attention every day. So it's a plant to think about. Might be something that would fit in your uh, landscaping, and they're relatively inexpensive, and they're easy to come by, and boy are they easy to take care of. So there. Does that give you a little time to figure out what's happening?
Very good. I think I fixed it.
Very good, Bill.
So, for some reason, was not transmitting on our Facebook page. And like I said, I think I fixed it, but I'm not sure. You
Somebody
learn
will
as you
call and
go,
let
I
you know.
guess. So hey guys, if anybody watching us has any questions, comments, anything else, please go ahead and put them in the comments. And if you're watching us on our Hernando County Extension Facebook page, please say good morning so that I know things are working. Otherwise, I guess I could check it here on my phone.
Yeah, we haven't had the hello things, the messages we normally get. So
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're on.
all right.
I think.
It's been raining so much, it's probably muddy where everybody is. They're staying inside.
I tell you what, yesterday afternoon, it rained at my house and it came down in buckets, turned my entire front yard into a lake. I mean, it was a lake until the rain slowed down to just a little drizzle. And in 10 minutes, it was all gone because I live in Spring Hill, so it does not take long to drain. But when it comes down fast and hard and in buckets, it piles up. So
There we go.
there we go. Good morning, HOC Family TV. And good morning, Bassem. How are you doing? Um, okay, that is Diana with HOC Family TV. Um, and they picked up one of our finger lime trees that we offered, and the rain was very, very strong yesterday. Fortunately, I made it home before it really came down, but I know after that I would not have wanted to be out driving around or coming home from work or going to the store or anything. Okay, we have a question. Basem wants to know, can I grow Seminole pumpkin from seeds now? Yes, I believe you can. I think that if you plant it right now, you'll have enough time for it to grow and flower and give you Seminole pumpkins before we get a frost or freeze in the winter. Normally, Seminole pumpkins you're going to plant kind of late spring, very, very early summer, because it is one of the few things that grows very well and produces very well in the heat of the summer, June, July, August, that time of year where most other vegetables are not going to do well. So Seminole pumpkins, sweet potatoes, okra. Bernie, you like okra?
I do. I think okra is a really good thing to put in a lot of stews, and
Gumbos.
I love it. Yeah.
I like it too. I know not everybody does, but um, I even planted just the other day, and they just started coming up, some red okra seeds, hoping that there's enough time to get them growing in a container and have them grow up and get okra off them before it gets cold this winter. If it gets cold, who knows? Last winter, it stayed fairly warm the whole winter. Didn't have a whole lot of real cold weather or damaging weather. So,
As a general rule, we tend to get our frosts within a week either side of Christmas here. So
yeah.
that if you're in Hernando County, that's a good way to plan that. Uh, and you can always cover plants if we get an early frost. So a waste basket, a cardboard box, something you can just stick
Mm-hmm.
over the top of the plant really works good. All you're doing is tinning it so the heat out of the ground will protect it. So generally, that last week of the year is the danger zone.
Yeah, and I know that if you save up your old blankets and sheets and even little sections of carpet, that helps a lot with covering plants. I didn't. I don't think I had to cover anything last year, and things that always get at least some damage, like lemongrass or bananas, no damage at all, and they're doing great this summer because of it.
Yeah, I had to um, protect my Hawaiian lay plants. So uh,
Yeah, they're very sensitive. They're always the first to get hammered on a really cold night.
yeah.
We have a question on what's the best way to transplant the finger lime? Carefully, because they have a lot of thorns. They have thorns up on the little branches, in the canopy, and all up and down the stem, all the way down to ground level. So, number one, wear gloves. Number two, when you're planting any citrus tree or really any tree, the most important thing to do is plant it at the same level, the same depth that it was growing in the pot. If you plant it deeper than how it was growing in the pot, it'll grow for a bit, but it's probably going to die within like 1 to 3 years. We see that, believe it or not, for homeowners who get oak trees and other trees put in their yard that bring them in a large container, plant them. The major cause of tree death is improper planting from putting it in too deep. Such a simple problem to avoid. Just same depth. Don't put it in too deep.
With the pot that the finger lime comes in, you can plant those fairly easy just using a post hole digger. Uh,
Yeah.
Make sure that the whole pot sits at exactly the right level. Pull it out, stick it down in the hole, and then as you slowly put the dirt back in, use the water to make sure it's compacted. We don't have any air spaces, and you can do it pretty easy. You don't have to have a shovel. It works just fine to use a post hole digger.
Yeah. And on those days when you get 5 inches of rain in the afternoon, you don't have to go out and water it either.
Which has been every day.
I
So
know. Yeah. And I think it's supposed to be that way today, Then after that, it gets a little bit drier.
But welder's gloves or something is
Yeah.
is that plant is probably the most hateful plant I've seen.
Yeah, it's pretty scary looking. All I could say is that you're going to have to wear gloves when you're doing anything around it, or eventually when it flowers and bears fruit, you're going to be wanting to wear gloves when you go in there for the fruit. I found, because I have a holly bush hedge, and it gets a ton of vines underneath it. I have skunk vine and other vines. I have the ones with thorns that come up, and the only way to get them out is to crawl around and cut all those vines back at ground level underneath. And I always get torn up from the hollies, from the thorns on the vines. So I got a pair of work gloves, and the glove part is the kind of dipped plastic, kind of Tyvek like, so it gives you really good protection. But the glove goes all the way up to like above my elbow. So sometimes you're going to have to. I got it on Amazon, less than $20, I think, and they seem pretty sturdy. Guarantee. I'm not sure if it's made out of Kevlar or what, but some kind of woven type of fabric that thorns can't pierce. So hopefully I'll be a little bit safer when I work around the hollies now.
Those are also great for palm tree trims.
Palm, yeah, of course, my yard, I have all the ones with spines on it. I have Washingtonias, Sylvester, and the little three clumps. What are those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're both pulling a blank here. So, so I have a queen
Robellini.
palm, and queen palms are safe to trim. Queen palms won't hurt you, but all the rest of my palms will definitely hurt you if you're not careful.
Robellini.
Robellini, that's it. Robellinis have like huge hypodermic needles at the base of their leaves. So,
Yeah, they're pretty nasty.
yeah. So I guess we're talking about needles and thorns and gloves today, and okra pickles. I'm not sure if I've ever tried them before. They sound pretty good. I love fried okra. I like okra in a good gumbo. Yeah, hopefully I get some okra. It's very, very easy to grow. You just can't grow it in the dead of winter when it's really cool. Okra is a tropical vegetable, so it likes it when it's really, really hot.
Yeah, you can deslime the okra if you need to, but fried okra doesn't require it.
Okay, guys, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll do our very best to get them answered. For any of you watching us on our office Facebook page, we were late coming on because I had a technical difficulty. I had to drop the location and re-enter it for us to start transmitting on Facebook. So, but we're here. We're here now.
What do you think of spiders in the garden? That's one of those things that almost everybody is terrified of spiders, but
Yeah.
I can't see where they're anything but beneficial. What's your opinion?
Things that could potentially bite me or injure me or that jump out and surprise me, like mostly spiders and snakes, because you never see a snake 10 feet away. You turn a corner and there's a snake right there, or it just pops up out of nowhere. I just leave them alone. I have a black snake that lives in my yard. I have the really large wolf spiders that don't make webs in my garden. So I'll be out there doing something, pulling weeds, whatever, and I'll disturb one, and they're big. And then he comes charging out. I just leave them alone. I don't touch them. I don't hurt them because they're all very, very important. Um, if you're fortunate enough to have a nice little ecosystem in your vegetable garden, it helps a lot to keep things in balance, and you'll have fewer, generally, pest problems and fewer problems overall. So I do have spiders. I have a black snake. I'm not sure how much of an impact he has on the vegetable garden. I have a boatload of anoles. I have the six-line skinks. They're really pretty and they're really cool. They eat a lot of bugs. I have the little, and I can't remember the name of it. I think it's protected or rare. Another little skink or salamander. It has kind of a colored tail on it. I have them in my
Mhm.
backyard also. Having beneficial beetles. If you see a beetle, and if you're daring enough to pick it up, look at his head and it's got big jaws, is probably beneficial because it uses those jaws to eat things like caterpillars and stink bugs and other things that are damaging your plants. Those tend to be beneficial beetles. I have them also. So I've got a whole little wild kingdom out there. And if they're not seriously damaging my plants and interrupting my production, they're more than welcome to stay. Then, the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned.
You were talking about wolf spiders. Uh, their eyes do a very interesting thing. They reflect light back exactly from the direction that it came. So uh, you can go out at night, take a flashlight, put it up uh, to the side of your head so that it's at
Mhm.
eye level, shine it around in the your yard or your garden or whatever. And if you see these little diamonds light up, those are wolf spiders. And it doesn't bother you until you do that and find out that there's about 65 little diamonds that light up in your yard. So uh,
Yeah,
it,
and you normally never notice them. You normally don't encounter them. I guess because I know a little bit more about the different things that might be in a garden. When I see them, they kind of stand out to me. I have a very sizable wasp that hangs out in my garden. It's not a paper wasp. I'm not sure what family or species it is, but it's a larger predatory wasp. And I believe it's one of the ones that looks around and preys on spiders. So all of us should have spiders. We should all have wasps that eat the spiders. We should all have wasps that eat caterpillars. And we should all have caterpillars in the yard. So we should have a little bit of everything. Blue tail mole skink, that's what it is. I've actually seen them in my yard. So if anybody wants to see what they look like, Teresa is on the ball here today sharing University of Florida information and links for all of you. And I have been, with all this rain, especially when it rains late in the day and early in the evening, you will have an explosion of frogs and toads. I have southern toads in my yard. We've had an explosion of the little tiny frogs, the little tiny black ones. So it's that time of year.
the, uh, the frog thing is kind of a problem in that we have uh, the Cuban tree frog that is overtaking our native green tree frog. And it's easy to tell the difference. The Cuban tree frogs have big pads on their toes, and if you have tree frogs, the little green guys or gray with the real big pads on their toes, uh, those are bad guys, and unfortunately they are taking over. So, uh, it, you know, I'd say use them for fish bait or something, but uh,
I'm not
I
even
get
sure if it
get in
worked for
trouble.
that.
Uh, but they need to have their population reduced. So if you can figure out some way to do it, that would be a good thing.
Yes, Teresa does a fine job right here at the office keeping their population limited right out front. I'm sitting here looking up saffron, growing saffron in Florida. A lot of information on here about growing saffron. Um, I'm not sure if it grows well in Florida. Have you ever tried? Bernie, isn't saffron the pollen off of a
It's
crocus?
I was thinking it was the stamens, but
Yeah,
anyways, it's part of the flower, and you only need like an acre to get a half ounce of saffron. So and it's very, very, very expensive. It's unbelievably labor intensive. It's not a practical um, thing for the United States population. You need uh, somebody where they can live on 50 cents a day, which obviously Americans can't do that.
no. And I wouldn't think that it would grow well here in Florida because it is a species of crocus, like, the bulb little flower plants that come up north, and they do not do well here. So my guess is saffron outside in your yard is probably a no-go here. You can have protected agriculture. There are greenhouse operations in Florida where they grow lettuce year round and they grow all kinds of things year round, but they manipulate the temperature inside, the amount of light, the temperature of the water. If you're growing lettuce in a greenhouse and you have a water chiller that makes the water cold that you're using in the hydroponic system, cold water is what lettuce likes. The lettuce will grow and it won't bolt if you keep the roots cold with cold water. But you can't grow lettuce out in your backyard in June, July, and August. It's just going to get promptly torn up and die, even though lettuce grows just great in Florida during the winter when the weather is cooler. So I wouldn't think the saffron would grow well here in Florida.
Yeah, I really don't think that from the number of plants required that
I
I'm
don't
a
know where you got those emojis from.
uh, it is a surprise. So I used to take night walks up at Chinsiga,
Hmm.
and that was one of the things we would do. We'd stop at one of the grassier areas where it was at least a little shorter, and do the flashlight thing, and it's just amazing how many uh, little beads you see back, and then once you know about them and you've done that, you go home and you go out in your yard, and it's just they're everywhere.
Hmm.
They're a very ubiquitous spider, and they really don't cause any problem. They're a good guy to have. They keep other things in check.
Yeah, and a lot of our spiders are very small. They're not, you're really not going to notice them that often. If you walk outside in your front yard very, very early in the morning and the grass is still wet, a lot of times you'll see a lot of webs, little spider webs in your lawn. And those are just tiny little spiders that live in your lawn. And the moisture will hang on the web so that the web is actually visible. And they're just eating, little moths that are out in your yard, chinch bugs, whatever they can find. They're not hurting anything.
Yeah, we had a golden orb set up housekeeping on our porch,
Yeah,
and
they're real common this time of year.
they are one of those things. If you're not a fan of spiders, they're just out and out scary. I admit it. I'm not a fan of spiders, and yet we decided that we'd let it go. We if it didn't bother us, we wouldn't bother it, and we ended up we had him for a couple of years, had her for a couple of years. It's interesting because the male lives on the same web with the female, and of course the female's 2 inches, the male is maybe 3/16 of an inch, maybe a little smaller. He's just down uh, at the very extreme part of the web trying to stay away from her. So uh, there is a real case of dimorphism in the sexes. So they are two totally different things. You'd never realize that that little tiny guy was the male.
Yeah, and I'm yeah, let me go ahead and see if I could share this.
kind of an
There we go.
interesting thing. There we go.
Here's some common Florida spiders. We have jumping spiders that are really cool because they're small and they can jump, and they can get in your building also. Crab spiders are really common out in the garden. There was a picture, or orb weavers. I'm sorry, it's orb weavers are very, very common in my yard at least. I can go out there, and if I see webs, I look closely, it's going to have a spider that looks like this, and they're beneficial also. And here's one of the, and the common name that we always call them is banana spider.
Yeah.
So we had that one. Golden silk spider is another very, very large spider, 25 to 40 millimeters long. It's pretty big. And you want to watch out for them if you're ever hiking in the woods. You don't want to walk into a web and get a face full.
Show the wolf spider.
And there is a wolf spider. And I know that I have them in my garden. And I'll scare them up, and they scurry off. They've never bothered me. And I leave them alone, and I appreciate them being there, because having those kind of things in my garden really helps to simplify my pest control work that I have to do.
Yeah, everybody's got those. That's probably one of the most common spiders that's never seen. Unless you're really looking, you don't see those very often, but they're there. That is the guy. And like I say, his eyes reflect light back, but it's almost exactly in the same direction that it comes from. So if you want to try the flashlight thing, flashlight has to be up by your eyes. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like we're preparing for Halloween here. We're talking about, spiders and snakes and yeah, and if you have a large spider in a large spider web on your property, if you ever just kind of pull up a chair and actually watch it and see what goes on, things fly into the web, and the spider will rush out and grab it and spin it up in its web. And that is what's happening out in your yard without you even knowing about it. I need to spend more time doing that, actually, pulling up a chair outside. I have a couple fire bushes, and I know that I have at least one hummingbird, because I've seen it in the backyard recently, that hangs out by my fire bush. And the backyard is filled with butterflies because my neighbor had passion vine, which, passion vine runs underground really well. So it just came right under the fence and pops up all over my backyard. I do my best to let it grow because it attracts caterpillars, which turn into butterflies. And now this time of year, my backyard early in the morning is filled with butterflies. So sometimes it's nice just to drag a chair out there on a nice morning and just kind of watch what's happening.
I have planted passion vine probably 10 times.
Oh, it dies when you plant it.
Well, the thing about it is, it's been stripped every time by the caterpillars. The best I ever did was probably 15 months that one plant lived. And you can have one that's 8 feet long, and in a day and a half, it'll have not one little flower left anywhere. It's amazing how quick they can strip it.
But the passion vine I have is kind of like milkweed because it's a really, really tough plant. So caterpillars can eat all the leaves, and my vines almost always survive and come back. What killed a couple of the vines this year was the really, really dry spring, because it started off nice. The vines were like, hey, it's spring, it rained, I'm going to grow like crazy. And then it was so dry for so long, actually killed the one big vine that I have in my backyard. I have more now because the stuff is underground and just pops up here, there, everywhere eventually. But if you buy a plant and plant it, it will probably promptly die. And then a year later, it will come back up about 8 feet away from where you planted it, bang, and just come up over there.
Yeah, that's when you really need something for it to climb on it. It passion vine really likes to climb, so
Mm-hmm.
um, had to go up a telephone pole. So
Yeah, you probably don't want it to go up a telephone pole. It's going to foul the wires. Now the power company's going to spray it for you. But
well, it
um,
only
putting it
got
on
about
trellis or
four
a
or five
fence.
feet before the insects got it. I guess
Yeah,
they got about 5 feet. It was eye level, and then it was gone. I love it.
it's a good fence covering.
It's a beautiful plant, beautiful flower.
Yeah, yeah, and it gets fruit also, but mine rarely get fruit. I have the the common purple and white one,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I have gotten fruit, but I'll only get like one or two fruit that I notice a year. So, guys, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat, and we will see them, and we will do our very best to answer them. Um,
I think with all the rain we've been getting, it's slowed down gardening a little bit. So the activity doesn't seem to be quite as strong as it was a month ago.
yeah, and it's still hot. I know they said today our heat index here in Hernando County could be as high as 110 while it's sunny. Let me look out the window. Yeah, it's halfway sunny out there right now. But it's supposed to get very sunny again, very hot, and then very, very rainy later on. So I think that's keeping a lot of people in.
Yeah, if you're going to garden, you definitely need to do it in the mornings.
Phyllis asks, what's new at the Master Gardener Nursery? And thank you so much for asking, Phyllis. I will be there tomorrow because we recently had a class on growing citrus. The class covered the basics of growing citrus, mostly kind of geared towards new Florida residents or people who have never had a citrus tree before. Maybe they bought a house that came with a citrus tree and they're like, what the heck do I do with that? I don't know. And as a part of it, if you wanted to purchase a Sugar Bell Mandarin orange tree, which is citrus greening resistant, you can do so. So I'm going to be at the nursery tomorrow handing out those trees to people that have already pre-purchased them. But if you want to stop by the nursery, I know that we have at least 5 to 10 Sugar Bell citrus trees still left, not spoken for. So you can stop by and get a Sugar Bell Mandarin orange tree. And we still have a few of the Australian finger limes left, also, the really thorny finger limes that we're trying to get rid of. If you're not able to make it out to the nursery this coming Saturday, just watch on Facebook because we're going to post exactly how many we have left in a couple days to try to get the rest of them sold and in people's yards and planted and being watered from all the rain we're getting. Other than that, the nursery is probably a swamp right now.
Yeah, that sugar bell is a nice citrus tree. If you want something that has the look of citrus, develops a decent size, uh, makes a good specimen tree, and actually produces citrus, and you don't have to worry about it. That's a good one. Citrus is very very unique in that uh, you really don't need to do much with the tree. You fertilize it 3 4 times a year, and basically, uh, if you see a problem, it's either going to go away or the tree will die. And there isn't all that much you can do about it. There's If you're a commercial grow, you do all kinds of things to make the fruit beautiful and everything. But if,
Yeah.
if you're a homeowner and you don't mind the fact that your fruit isn't going to look like a painting, uh, almost none of the things that happen to citrus really affect the quality of the fruit. So it's an easy plant to take care of, something that actually produces food with very, very little effort. Uh, the citrus had been a fantastic plant from that standpoint up until greening came along. Well, now here's an opportunity to get a plant that doesn't have greening, kind of sells itself as being old Florida like a palm tree does,
Mm.
and yet you don't have to worry about it. So, if you want a citrus at all, that's a good place to start.
And we have a question here. You don't have to report gopher tortoises. Just leave them alone. Let them be. Enjoy their presence. I have always had a few in my neighborhood, and sometimes during the day they walk across the street, they cruise through my yard, they stop and eat some of the weeds and plants and stuff that I have growing because I don't spray my lawn with anything. It is not pure grass. It's maybe 3/4 bahia. The rest is weeds. And gopher tortoises can always find something tasty in my yard. So can rabbits and a lot of other things. Whereas those in HOAs, maybe gopher tortoises, don't find it nearly as tasty. But other than that, just leave them alone and let them be. They are protected, so you're not allowed to move them or relocate them on your own.
Gopher tortoises tend to spend 2 to 3 years in a spot and then move on. So
You know,
they won't be there forever.
Cindy has dollarweed in her lawn. That's because we've had so much rain, and dollarweed really, really likes water. And your lawn has probably been getting plenty of water recently. So, is there a good way to get rid of it? When I pull it, it breaks off.
Image has a product that works pretty good on dollar wheat. Uh, if you read the label, it says it's recommended for dollar wheat, and it works fairly well. Image used to be only one product. Image is now a family of products, so you have to read the label to make sure you get the right one. But that's probably the simplest, easiest one to get.
Yeah, and don't overwater your lawn. Now, even if you don't overwater your lawn when we start to get a ton of rain, you can't control that. But you don't want to overwater your lawn and add to the problem because then you'll end up with lush, beautiful dollarweed that's just going to go like crazy. So try to stay on the drier side if you can.
There's another plant that looks like dollar weed called dichondra,
Mm.
and they actually use it for lawns in California. So I think that's kind of an interesting little tidbit.
Technically, there are other things that you could use for lawns. I mean, we have plenty of ground covers. If you ever, I'm sure you're familiar with purple nutsedge and yellow nutsedge.
Hmm.
The way it grows and the way the blade is shaped, if you had an area that was just packed full of it and you run over with a lawnmower, it looks fine.
Yeah.
It looks like a lawn. So, um, Teresa put some information up here about what I have, which is a freedom lawn, and also dollar weed. Very, very, very common weed. Very common question for us. Um, Here's a question from somebody who's never asked a question before, from Cecile. Says, good morning, thank you. What is a good natural fertilizer for fruit trees?
The best natural fertilizer there is compost.
Yeah, quality compost. And if you look on the market, they have a lot of organic fertilizers now that have low numbers. So the percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is low initially because it's made out of materials that have to be broken down by bacteria in the soil and moisture and fungi. So it's going to contain things like blood meal and bone meal and cottonseed meal and stuff like that. but those can be very good fertilizers also. They're just not, if it's organic, it's not going to be a fast release. It's going to be much more of a slow release. So for fruit trees, they're going to be fine also. And Rob is watching us from Nevada. Yay, we are nationwide today. So good morning, Rob. He's a master gardener intern at the extension, not that he's a master. So you're not a master like Bernie's a master.
Well, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. People ask me questions because they think that I know everything. Guys, I don't know everything.
I'll tell you, you stick around this place for 20 years, you can't help but learn a few things. So
Mm-hmm. And then you get really good at an awful lot of questions are either the same kind of question, so they're very common questions. A lot of them, especially when it comes to insects, are seasonal. I know the second week of March, lubber grasshoppers are going to hatch in Hernando County. They're going to be out there. I know when the caterpillars come out that are up in your oak trees. I know when Jadera bugs come out, and then everybody asks about them at the same time. And then every once in a while, you'll end up with a unique one in a million kind of questions like, I've never seen that before, or I really don't know what your problem could be or how to solve it. And that's when we have to go and contact the experts at University of Florida and get their opinion on it and get it positively identified. It seems like a lot of people, if they have some kind of plant disease problem, if you send a good detailed explanation and either bring in a sample to Bernie at the office or send me pictures, we can give you an idea of, it's probably a fungus, leaf spot fungus, need a fungicide. If you need to know for sure what it is, it really has to go to a lab and be plated out. I can give you my best guess about if your citrus tree has citrus greening, if your palm tree has lethal bronzing, and a few others, but I can only give you my best guess based on the visual symptoms. I'm not good enough where I can lay my hand on a palm tree and sense the disease and diagnose it that way. It has to go off to a lab to say for sure.
oh, I thought you knew it all.
No. Some days I do. Other days it seems like I don't know much of anything.
You know, I thought it was interesting. The first 5 years of doing this, we're learning what the interests of people were. It took a long time, and it's one of those things that uh, when somebody comes in and wants to know about something that I'm not familiar with, I end up doing the research. Well, it doesn't take long, and you've researched so many projects, so many different little things. You've got a pretty good idea, and the wonderful part about it is if you ask the question, somebody else is going to ask the question. So it's not a case ever that I've wasted time to learn one thing, because usually anything that people ask will show up not too long. Somebody else will ask,
Mm-hmm.
and what's really kind of neat is when you get a topic that you've never heard about. You've been here sitting in a chair for 10 years, and somebody comes in and they've got one of these weird things, and you do a lot of work, you find out about it, and then 2 days later somebody else comes in, and then next week somebody comes in, and you see these little trends starting, and it's amazing how many things happen in Florida that are very unique to Florida. That it got off a boat someplace and it's headed north, and it just went through Hernando County,
Yeah.
and it is amazing. And then you find out that this is happening basically a couple of times a month. Some major new problem shows up, and if they don't catch it uh, at the port city, we end up with a new problem a snail that's a problem, a little insect that took out all of our bay trees. These things come and go. So uh, it's just a constant new learning experience. And if you like to learn, man, this is the place to be.
Anne-Marie says that they picked olives for 2 days. Wow, you must have gotten a lot of olives and finally got to press olives. Growing olives is a lot of work pruning and picking, but the oil is wonderful. Just thought I'd share. Takes 10 to 15 years to get a full yield on the tree. And like we olive trees have come up before on here, either last week or the week before. I've seen one in somebody's yard. It is a very, very attractive tree. It has kind of
Pretty.
silvery gray foliage, so it looks different. Nice size, nice natural shape. I thought it was a great looking tree. It says you need at least 300 chill hours, and that's going to depend on the exact variety you get. If you're thinking about getting a olive tree, University of Florida has a lot of information on the different varieties, which is going to do well up where Anne Marie lives up in North Florida, which is going to do well here. And it was a really great experience hearing from friends in Clearwater that they're getting olives. And she has an olive emoji. I don't know where you all get these emojis from, but yeah, I just recently had to have a large Sylvester palm tree cut down in my front yard because it got lethal bronzing and it died. And it sat there pretty dead for a pretty long time before I finally got the tree service out there thinking, well, I guess I need to suck it up and have it cut down. I was in no big rush. I got more important things in my life than a dead palm tree out front. Palm tree is cut down. I do need to make arrangements to get the stump ground out, but I'm going to need a tree for the front yard. I think I'm going to get an olive tree. It's going to be a full sun location out front, sandy soil. So I'm going to have to look up, and Teresa has already shared a link for it, Olives for Your Florida Landscape, and figure out the best one to kind of take a shot at growing in my yard.
They are a beautiful tree. I think they're gorgeous.
And you just have to look in the emoji selector.
I didn't even know they had one.
Oh, I know what these emojis are for here. So, no, everybody loves olives. I do. I really love olives.
Yeah. I put them on my hamburger.
I'll have to try that.
Lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, and olives.
I like the cheap green ones. They tend to be really salty. I like the big black olives. I like the stuffed ones. I like the Kalamata, which a lot of times have the seed or the pit inside of it. And I guess I could take a road trip up to North Florida and have Anne Marie press those olives when hopefully I get a whole bunch of them. And there are an amazing number of different varieties of olives around the world. You might think, well, there's maybe 5, maybe 10 varieties of olives. Oh, no, there's tons of different types of olives. So, hey, guys, looks like we're kind of getting close to that time. So let me go ahead and share with everybody who is watching us live or watching a recording of this. And if you're watching a recording, thank you so much for giving us your time to watch this. Hopefully you've learned something. And if you have a question that we didn't cover or we didn't cover well enough, best way to get in touch with me, shoot me an email, send me pictures, send me a description of what your problem is, and we can work out back and forth what it is and hopefully come up with a solution to your problem. If you'd like to call and speak with Bernie, that is our office phone number, and Bernie is here pretty much all day on Thursdays. If you'd like to come by, where is it, and visit him. No, we don't have our physical address on here. So uh, we do have the address for our Master Gardener Nursery, though. So please feel free to come by our Master Gardener Nursery. It is not at the same place where our office is. It is right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds, and Master Gardeners are there Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8:30 in the morning until 11. During the winter, they're there till noon. But when it's really hot, like today, it's supposed to be heating index to like 110, they leave at 11. And I can't blame them. I wouldn't want to be there past 11 a.m. either. Uh, we offer a ton of different free classes. I generally do most all of mine online, and we've had a number of them recently. Vegetable garden basics, basics of caring for palm trees. We have one on the basics of citrus just the other day. And if you'd like to sign up for them and watch them live, or if you sign up for it, I record all the classes and I'll send you the link and you can watch it later on that night after dinner or later on in the evening, whatever is best for you. Best way to follow what we're doing is follow us on Facebook. Everything I'm doing, I put on there. There is our Facebook short name. And if you're wondering, well, what eventually happens to all those recorded classes? I think I'd like to watch a bunch of them. Eventually they end up on the Hernando County government's YouTube channel. And they have playlists. They have one for Florida Friendly Landscaping, and they have one for Hernando County Extension. Mine are on Extension. Florida Friendly Landscaping contains mostly recorded classes that Lily Browning did. Lily was on here earlier. Maybe she's still on here right now. She's got like over 100 classes on there, and each one's about an average of an hour long because she made really long PowerPoints. So there's probably 100, 120 hours of education right there on Hernando County Government's YouTube channel. Easy to find. And Colby was not able to be here with us today. But if you'd ever like information on signing up for a free compost bin if you're a Hernando County resident, or how to sign up for Colby's rain barrel classes, once again, if you're a Hernando County resident, just go to this link tree, and it's a place where he has links to all that different information. If you live in another county, not in Hernando County, chances are you have some kind of rain barrel program there also. I know a lot of surrounding counties do. Not everybody does. But check with your local extension office there. And if they don't run it, they probably know if it exists and who does run it. So it can be run by extension, your county's utilities department, solid waste department. A lot of different governmental agencies will run rain barrel classes, composting classes, a lot of different activities like that. So let's see what kind of final.
One thing to remember is that as soon as it stops raining would be a great time put down a pre-emergent and see if you can stop some of the winter annuals. So I would say another 2 weeks would be a great spot to put down pre-emergent, and then do it again in mid-March, and see if you can't stop the seeds before they become a plant. If you don't have a weed to worry about because it didn't germinate, that's a lot better than trying to poison it after it grows. And little ounce of prevention there. So
yeah, that definitely helps. And pre-emergence can be very, very helpful. It's funny because you never know how helpful they have been.
they make
unless you do side-by-side comparison and you only treat half your yard, you leave the other half of the yard to compare and contrast. Most people don't want to do that. Here, let me bum 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 bum. Where are we here? Let me. What do I want to download this as?
There again, if you're growing plants, it makes good sense if you're going to put money into an investment type plant, which an olive tree is. Buy it from a local nursery. There are people that are buying plants for sale that are the correct plants to sell in your area. And unfortunately, the big box stores buy a million plants and they sell the same plant in Miami and Orlando and Gainesville and Tallahassee, and uh, maybe it works great in one of those places, but it doesn't work well in the others. So um, the investment type plants, deal with your local nursery, and if you want something special, your local nursery can not only get it, but they'll get the right plant for your area. Those are people that have a stake in the community, and I really believe local nurseries are the way to go. So, uh,
Okay, we got one last picture here to comment on, and I'll show the picture in a moment. This is coming from Bill Camillo, and he emailed me also and says, here's a photo of the landscaping they installed at his son's new house in Spring Hill. And there's a number of neighborhoods in that area, and I'm familiar with at least one because we had to go and give a presentation to them about their turf grass. And he says, seems like a little too much competition for a 20-foot by 20-foot area. And he's wondering what kind of plants they are. So let's go ahead and show the picture here. So I've been seeing this a lot recently. They are building houses, and they used to be known as zero lot lines. And the ones I've seen are like smaller than zero lot lines. The lawns, the yard is extremely small, and they will stuff queen palms, live oaks, magnolias in the yard. And it's not unusual to see several trees and a palm in a like postage stamp size front yard. So, Bernie, what do you think is going to happen with these trees not that far down the road?
well, the palms are going to get big, and the palms are going to be a problem because if you envision this, let's say that everything goes fine for 20 years. The little tree is going to be a big tree. The palms are going to be taller than the building. If anything happens, you now have big plants that are going to have to come out. If they get diseased and break off, they're going to damage the house. It's it's too much in a small area. That area would be better off with one specimen tree that stays small than I mean, it's nice now,
Yeah.
but visualize it 10 years from now and 20 years from now, and it's going to all go out of scale. You know, uh, that's one of those things where I would say like a one winged elm is going to fill that entire space in 15 years. So if one tree is all you really need, this is a little much. But it's pretty now, but it's going to be difficult to maintain. It's a the problem isn't now. The problem's 10 years down the road.
Yeah, because that tree, the magnolia tree, is going to get as tall as the house. And it
It's going
won't
to get
take all
bigger
that
than the
long
house.
for that to
Yeah,
happen. Queen palms are in the world of palms one of the fastest growing ones. So if they take good care of the palms, fertilize them properly, we have a lot of information about that, how to properly care for a palm. If you do everything right, it potentially is going to grow quickly also. That front yard, and it's not just that house, it's every house on the street has the same volume of landscape material. It's you're going to have to start removing it just as little
yeah.
as 5, 10 years down the road. It ain't all going to fit after it starts to grow.
I'd pull some of it out now. It's easy to do it now. It's going to get harder later.
Yeah. Okay, Bassem, thank you so much for tuning in. And Cindy. And Lily is still here also. And Lily says it's 64 degrees up there. Let's see. My computer says it's 83, and it's usually wrong. So we'll say it's about 110 outside right now. So, and yes, pre-emergence can work very, very well. Definitely worth a try. Read the label. Make sure you're getting a product that's going to work to solve the problem that you have. And yeah, can work, can be very, very helpful with sand spurs. Not much you could do with sand spurs in the fall after they have the spurs on them.
Drag the lawn with a piece of carpet. Just
That will
get a
help
piece of carpet, pick up the spurs,
up.
And use a pre-emergent to stop them from germinating. Take you 2 or 3 years, but you can get rid of them.
Yeah, don't go out there on your bare feet and try to gather them that way. And your dogs will always be limping around. I know that we had a dog that every time she stepped on one, she'd act like she broke her leg. And my wife would have to go over, oh, you have a sticky in your foot, and pull it out. It's like, you didn't break your leg. You just stepped on a sand spur. You ain't going to die from that. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back here again next week. Colby should be here with us also. So go ahead and save up all your lawn and garden questions, and be sure to come back here with us again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. right here on Facebook and also on YouTube. So wherever you're watching us today, we should be back on there next week, all depending on what kind of technical problems we encounter next week. So, it's always something. So you are all very welcome, and thank you so much. You guys all have a great week, and we'll see you back here again next week. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.